of all. You're coming back. That's a good sign. They're back. Who here saw Gary Keller went to the awards ceremony before I jump in? Wasn't that great? What do you guys think? We're going to be market makers. That's my new thing now. I'm going to start quoting Gary. We are all going to be market makers. We're going to start with our buyer consult, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into how I have not only done buyer consults for years personally, and I should go back. I've been doing real estate for 8 years, and a lot of you don't know this. I'm still actively doing real estate. I don't do as much, I'll admit it. I don't have the time. I just came back from a seller walkthrough, walked in the door, and here I am here. So I do still sell real estate. I do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's my investment property fund, which is important to me. And number two, it keeps me fresh and it keeps me more in tune to you guys when I'm doing these trainings. I don't know if you guys knew this, Ben Kinney also sells homes still for the same reasons. He still actively sells homes. Granted, we don't have as much time as we used to, but so this buyer consult, oh, sorry, I heard a feedback. This buyer consult I've done for years, and I actually updated it a week ago. It's the first time I've updated this buyer consult in forever because it had to be updated to the market of the moment. And the market of the moment is insane. I thought I went through 2007. I'd gone through the kind of earlier part of the cycle in like 2016, 17, early 18. Nothing compares to this. So I have been uncharacteristically attending masterminds outside of us and trying to learn and glean. I say uncharacteristically because normally I'm running a Zoom. And so I've been coming on as an attendee and just taking copious notes. And by the way, stacking up incredible guests for our Wednesday webinars. That's the other reason I do it. So I've updated this for the first time. And so that means that some of this is not on the slide deck, and some of this Lena and I are going to go through. We're going to follow up behind because there are some outstanding scripts. One of my favorite new scripts that we're going to teach you today. And we're going to send you a transcript and you're going to practice it. And then we're going to go through what's called the promise with my kicks. So this is really the first time I've taught this class in this iteration after, I don't know, a dozen years of teaching it, how I've always done it. So I'm going to look at my notes a little bit more than usual because I want to get some things right. So I just wanted to kind of prep you guys with that. All right, let's go. Hold on a minute here. Sorry. Let me just check. Any questions or thoughts on that while I pull this up? No, you're right. You guys get started. Yeah, stop checking. I know. I'm going fast. We're good. Okay. All right. So, so just jump in, interrupt. You know how this goes. One last thing. These classes were originally designed to be about 60 minutes and then to go into a 30-minute breakout. We still want to go into the breakout. So if you would do me a favor, in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom, you have a ... Kind of scroll your mouse up there. Can you rename, go to rename, and then next to your name, write your market center name. We, with your permission, we're going to try to crank through the content. We have been going longer. We at least want you guys to break out for 5 minutes because it's important to me and Lena that you guys spend some time in between this session and the next session, always doing script practice and kind of going through what we're learning here. It'll cement it. If you don't do that, you won't cement what you've learned. And that's how we kind of building block things. The real go-getters go out in the field and experiment with it, and then you mastermind about it. That's how you really start building the skills, because you'll only retain 3% of what you hear today, right? If you're lucky. If you take notes and you're really diligent, you can retain about 10%, and that's a superstar. So if you really like what you heard and you like the way that you're hearing things, go practice it with each other and then go practice it in the field. That'll really, really anchor it and cement it. And I bet you, Lena, that when everyone starts doing that, they're a little more talkative in the front part of the Zoom, because then you've gone and failed and you have stuff to say about it. You're like, it's just more. The other thing is you can always text and email us. Sean, are you here?
Yes. I am here.
Sean, Sean Brown, everybody. Sean Brown literally emails us updates throughout the week. He is doing exactly what I said. He goes and tries this stuff. He has funny stories. He feels forward. He succeeds, whatever. Sean, we will see you in 5 years, not even 5 years, 3 years on our award slides, just like we had, the other day. Get in the habit of being really, getting into action on this stuff, right? It doesn't feel comfortable at first. I get it. And you can always adapt our scripts, but do it. Just, try it, do something. Okay, I'm done. All right, let's go. Okay, so when I am on our buyer consult, and I'm going to send you a whole outline. We have a lot to send you as follow-up when this is done. I have a 7-step buyer consult, and we're going to go through all 7 steps. And I apologize, we should have had a slide that had all 7 steps on it. That's my fault. But we're going to go through all 7 steps. So the number one, step is to set the stage. And what I want to say about this is that this can be done on Zoom or in person. And what setting the stage means is people want certainty. In fact, I would write that down. Your buyers and your sellers and your prospects, they want certainty. So if you tell them what you're going to do, then do it. Then tell them what you did. Then tell them what you're going to do. Then do it. And then tell them what you did. If you're constantly leading them down the path of a transaction, of a sales process, they will hire you over someone unknown. That's just very good basic sales. People want certainty. They want to understand the path before them. And the example I always give is they want to see their Candyland board in front of them. And then you're constantly needing to say, okay, remember the Candyland board with 10 squares? We're on step 3 of 10. Just don't be shy reminding someone where they are on a path, right? A lot of sales trainers will call it the critical path of sales. You're kind of walking them down a path. So whether we're on Zoom or not, those of you who are showing agents or work with showing agents, or if there's anyone else, if you're on a team here, be sure to introduce the team if the team's there with you, or even if they're not. Introduce the Rainmaker, because the Rainmaker is who's going to jump in as your designated broker if there's a problem. If you are the designated broker, introduce people that are going to be involved in their transaction, if at all possible. I always want to serve them and show that I'm a servant leader. So if I am in person, I always want to offer, tea or coffee or water or whatever. And, same thing as an open house. We call it FORD, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Just talk. It's like, hey, Lena, so what, you guys have any, I don't know if you're planning on traveling, but are you going to, since you're both vaccinated, are you going to travel, do you think, this year?
Yeah, we want to go to Mexico.
Oh, fun. Have you booked it yet?
Not yet, but soon, hopefully.
Oh, that's awesome.
I need some sunshine.
Awesome. Right. So we're just bored. You're just talking about stuff, right? Or whatever. One of the things I do is I will take my phone and I'll just kind of, it's a little more exaggerated, just kind of put it down, face down. It's kind of like, hint, hint. Go ahead, put the phone down. It doesn't always work, but I find that if I kind of do that, in front of them like that, then they get the hint and they do it too. They don't always do it. Caveat on E. I actually don't like this script and I don't use it. So why am I teaching it? I am teaching it because this script is in almost every buyer consult sales training I've ever been in. And I honestly feel compelled that you need to see it. Does anyone here use this script effectively and it works well for you? Have you seen it before? Lena, have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. I personally don't use it.
I don't love it either. And my only comment is that there are a lot of people who use it really well. And that's great. And we're going to skip it. But if you use it well, then that's great. I think it's a little aggressive. It's just not I'm pretty aggressive, but I just don't think I would use that script.
Yeah.
You're going to hear it a lot, though. As you go to buyer consult sales trainings, you'll hear people, do it a lot. There's a time where I might say it, like if I have someone really resistant, maybe, to a buyer consult, what I might say is, hey, I know that it was hard to get you to sit down because you just wanted to go see the house, Lena. And And what I know is, we can definitely walk out of here today and, decide we're not a match, and that's okay. That's okay. What's important to me is that I kind of go through the process and explain how I work. And so there might be a time where that might come up, right? Or not, but all right. So the big part of a buyer consult is the needs analysis. And this is about who? Is this about you? Is this about you?
No, it's them.
No, it's about them. So you guys know how to define the success of a meeting with a client or with a prospect? Who is the happiest in a meeting, Lena? The person who talks the least or the person who talks the most?
The person who's talking the most about themselves.
Yeah. So if you want to have a winning buyer consult, let them talk the most. That's is pretty simple. So the needs analysis is a guided way to let them talk, right? And what I find is that I don't edit that too much. I just kind of let them go. All I'm doing is directing and drilling down. So the first thing out of the gate is this is kind of how I talk. So Lena, when you kind of think about your lifestyle at home and how you spend your time, what features are important to you in a home?
Yard for my kids and dogs.
How many bedrooms do you think you guys need, Lena?
I'd say 4.
And by the way, and this is coming. So if you're on Zoom, one of the things that you can do on Zoom is you can say, hey, I just want to let you know if you see me typing, I'm taking notes. Or you can kind of say, hey, I'm going to take notes if you see me, because they can't see you off camera, and I think it's important for them to know. I usually type my notes, and so I'll say, hey, I am typing notes right now if you see me type. So Lena, you think you need 4. So how are you going to, use those 4 rooms?
The kids, us, and then a guest room or office.
So how many people will be enjoying the house?
How many people what?
Will be enjoying your house? How many people will be living in?
Just me, my husband, and 2 kids.
And 2 kids. Okay, so the 4th bedroom is a den or a guest room?
Office, guest room. We have family that comes from out of state a lot.
Okay. So if we found a house that had like a rec room that could be closed off, maybe with a bathroom servicing it, could that also, a 3-bedroom plus that also work potentially? If it was the right house?
As long as we have a place for that extra bed and kind of an office area, that works.
Okay. Do you guys remember LP Mama, by the way? I typically, the needs analysis is me reiterating LP Mama, and for the purposes of this class, we've probably already gone through it pretty well, but we might go through it again. All right, Lena, so 3 to 4 bedrooms. Now you see what I did? I took some control of the conversation, because I know, because I've already done LP Mama, that Lena's price range is, Lena, what's your price range?
800,000.
Okay, we've come into the conversation, and I already knew that. I already knew a lot of this. So I know we're going to be pushing it, especially with multiple offers. So I'm going to steer the conversation so that Lena's saying, oh, okay, 3 bedrooms works. 3 bedrooms plus a den works, right? I'm not saying that. So I think that's something important to note. I've seen a lot of agents just start shoving facts and data and just talking a lot during these, try to let them talk and try to steer the conversation so that they're self-discovering. So Lena, okay, perfect. So I'm going to reiterate that, right? So 3 to 4 bedrooms, we've already made that decision, right? I mean, that's just a subtle sales thing. We've already taken control and made that decision and just completely steered the conversation to be 3 to 4 bedrooms, because it really needs to be. So 3 to 4 bedrooms. What else is important to you? Big yard, I hear you say. So Lena, new construction may not be something that's in the picture. And I know that we talked about that earlier. What year of house would you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously would love new construction. I know their yards are a little bit smaller. So as long as the house is updated, I guess, on the inside, even if it's old, that's fine.
I'm curious, Lena, is the house or the yard more important?
I don't know. Equally both.
So what I'm hearing is we should have both products on our search. It would be okay to have new construction with smaller yards, and then it would be okay to have a larger yard with maybe not as updated of a home on the search.
Yeah, because I don't want to discount anything, so that's a good idea.
So I'm going to break role play. So why do you think you, and you guys feel free to, I mean, why do you think I steered that conversation?
Because you knew ahead of
I
the
knew
fact how you search and what if you get her too much in a tight lane, you're gonna eliminate so many potential options. So it sounds like you're helping, which you are, but you're steering and helping so that she still is willing to look at both because she may not know what will work.
you're exactly right. So she feels my expertise immediately. She subconsciously feels it. And then on top of it, Sean, I know my stuff. And by the way, all of you guys who chose to do the 50 previews in 15 days, you know your stuff too. There's not a lot of inventory. 50 homes is a lot of homes. So, if you know your stuff, you can steer the conversation. And guess what? I don't have to talk. She gets to talk. Like, and it's the way I ask the questions. The person who asks the questions is in control of the meeting, always, of the conversation.
But it was almost like she made the decision, but she did and she didn't because you steered her into that decision in a way, not like a trick, but she still feels she made the decision.
That's right, 100%. So I'm back in role play. So Lena, so we can include all that. That's great. What else is important to you in the house?
Definitely at least 2 bathrooms.
Okay. So 3 to 4 bedrooms, at least 2 bathrooms. Okay. Okay. What else?
The schools.
What schools, Lena, specifically?
I just want to have, my kids are in public school, so decent public schools. I'd prefer, maybe the ratings of 6 or higher.
Okay, so you haven't identified any specific schools, but
No.
And what rating service do you use?
Just greatschools.org or the niche one.
Have you compiled a list at all of those?
No, I mean, I heard that there's a couple districts that are better than others. So, but we're not too, as long as the school has a decent rating for the academics, then we're good.
Sure. What districts have you identified?
North Shore. I think Issaquah we heard is okay, pretty good.
Fantastic. Yeah, really great. What about Lake Washington?
Lake Washington, yeah, that one's really good, I think, right?
Yeah, it's great. They're both great. All 3 of those are really great districts. And actually, breaking role play, they really are. Like, that's for real. Like, 3 great districts. Okay, perfect. So what I'm hearing is we could probably just do searches and have just those 3 districts represented, and that would work.
Yeah, that's great.
And you're pretty comfortable hopping onto great schools when you see where the elementary school is and looking at
it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's great. What else should we know?
Maybe, maybe not on a busy street because, like I said, I have little kids.
Okay. I'm curious, Lena, if we found a new construction home with a 1-acre lot that was everything you wanted on a slightly busy street, would you want us to delete that and rule it out?
1 acre? Wow. No, I'd probably want to see it.
Okay. Should we maybe include homes on busy streets and then, agree to not see them, but just make sure they're on the search since we're so low of inventory, or do you want us to go through and delete some streets?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That's a good idea.
Lena,
I'd rather see more.
Yeah. I know we talked that you might be willing to go up to $1 million in certain areas. What areas would those be?
I think if the house checked all those boxes, then we would feel comfortable with a higher monthly payment.
So what I'm hearing you say that you didn't say, but since we're fake role playing, I'm going to say you said, is that if the house was in Kirkland or Redmond, you might be willing to go up to $1 million. That would potentially cause you to, liquidate stocks or whatever.
Yeah.
That's great. So shelve that, you guys. Shelve that. So the reason I'm saying that now is that people do often have different needs in different areas. Like They might say, well, I would either do a townhome in, I'm making this up, like in Ballard, or a single family in, say, Shoreline or Evans, or wherever it is. I'm making this up. So be sure that you're understanding their needs and how they pertain to the various geographies. Tacoma would be the same thing. Someone's like, well, I buy a townhome in North Tacoma or Proctor, but, I would potentially do Lakewood if I could live on a lake, or, live on like, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's the same thing. Like, every area has its places. Everyone's making fun of me because I got that all washed up. But, everyone's like Edgemore in Bellingham. They're like, I'll buy a fixer upper in Edgemore, but I don't want to buy a fixer upper in another area. You know what I mean? So choose your area and kind of understand it that way, and you're asking questions accordingly. All right. So we kind of go through that. We're taking notes. I don't know why the way the system translated these slides, a lot of the F's turned into P's, which is very strange. It's never happened to me. Lena, you mentioned a busy road. Are there any specific fears around that, or?
I just worry about my kids running out in the street, and one of my dogs is a rescue. He's been hit by a car, so he's, a loose cannon sometimes. So just makes me nervous.
What, kind of walking into this, are you nervous about anything else?
I'm nervous because I hear that it's hard right now to find a house and get an offer accepted. So I'm afraid of finding something that we love and not getting it, or not finding anything.
Yeah, that's valid, and that's what we're here to talk about. That's why it was important to meet. So I'm glad you're here. Okay, so we're going to spend all the time we need on that. We're just going to anything else? What else? We're going to, let them talk, right? I just think it's really important. Everyone's got their own pacing on that. We probably don't need to spend an hour going through needs analysis. There's some really good needs analysis trainings out there, though. Sean Kokoska used to have one. It was really good. And I can't remember, I'll try to find it, but his line of drilling down was really good. He kind of had a 3-beat method that was really, really good. So there's a lot of really good ones out there. And this is a script I use, oftentimes I hear comments like Lena just said, so I might say, hey, one of the things we're going to talk about today is how I'm your advocate, and that's how our system works. And this must have been, I don't know why these are all from notes from my buyer consults. This must have come from an era where lending was a big deal. In fact, that script probably came from like 2009 to 2012 when it was really tough, right? So I don't know why that's in there. So, ideally, once the prospect has done their share of talking, then you do get to go in and share your value proposition. Now, this value proposition is a good example of how the world has really changed. 2021, we're in a different market. So we need to spend the time. It's kind of a combination of educating them and showing our value, right? And what's really important is that they understand our value prop is not finding them a house online. That ship has sailed. They're going to find their own house online, right? That you've got to be more than I'm going to find you the house, because you're probably not going to find them the house. They are probably getting their alert on Redfin, my friends, before your IDX even comes through. You are busy, you're actively working, your MLS auto notification may not even hit you. So it's really important that your value prop isn't, I'm going to find you your home. It's you're going to get them. If that makes sense. So I do like to use a lot of words. So everyone here, which is cool, has our own unique sales style. Everyone here, I look at all the Brady Bunch squares, Dane, Helen, Samantha, Lenny, all of you, Kathy, you guys all have your own unique sales styles. Mine is, I'm a coach, and that's my sales style. Like Gary Keller talks about, he's a teacher. I'm not as much of a teacher as I am a coach, right? That's my sales style, right? So I do use words like you see here, consult, advocate, protect, because I think that's what we all want. Like I also get a football coach, right? Protect people. I use words like partnership a lot. Like, Lena, this is a partnership between us. I'm always going to be unfiltered and direct and tell you what I think. And ultimately, you are in charge. It is your asset that you're purchasing. I'm just here as your advocate and as your counselor and to give you good information so that you can make the best decision. So that I use language like that. And I just kind of wanted to throw a slide in there to make you think about what language you're using, what words are you using to best, reflect your style. And that's something good on a side note, that's something good to mastermind around. Like that right there is a good topic to kind of start thinking about what is my sales style? And if you really start understanding it, you'll kind of know who you attract, who you're good, who you're going to click with at an open house, right? And it's just it's a good self-knowledge to know, I think. See, benefit. I don't know why it did that. Isn't that the weirdest thing? This Boomtown, we use Brivity now, MLS. Skipping some of this because I don't think it's very active. Okay, this is where I want to spend the most of our time today. This is brand new content. I've only taught it once. I don't think anyone here was on it. We did a mastermind for all of our 50 million and over producers called Path to a Million. Actually, Alex, you were on that, weren't you? On Path to a Million? No. Okay.
Unfortunately, I had a recruiting appointment at that exact same time, so I had to go to that.
Perfect. Yeah. You're good. So a couple of weeks ago, I was invited to a private mastermind with some of the Gary Keller top agent group with all of their top buyer agents. And it was one of the best masterminds I've been to all year. It was incredible. And I was typing notes like a court stenographer. I was recording on my phone so that I could transcribe it. I heard really one of the best scripts I've heard in a long time that I just taught our Path to a Million. I just taught our 15 million of producers, and I've never had our phone blow up with so many requests for the script. So this is a good example. This is nothing to do. You guys, for new experience, it's just a good script. It's just a great script, right? So Elena and I are going to role play that script, and we're going to send this to you after it's over. You're going to have it in transcript. I would love you guys to practice this because I think this needs to be smooth and practiced. The other thing I'm going to attempt to do, Elena, don't judge me. I'm going to attempt to whiteboard this. I am horrible at this, but I want everyone to get an idea of what this would be like with like a Sharpie, if you and I were in person, right?
Okay.
This is how we draw, all right? Okay, draw. You're going to die laughing when you guys see.
No, this is going to be fun.
Oh, it's going to be fun. I wonder if I can even do a shape. I think I can do a shape. Ooh.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, this is the ABC script. Are you guys ready for my drawing skills? Hey, you know what? I'm kind of impressed with myself right now. I'm not going to lie. This is not the direction I saw this
It's
going.
pretty fast too.
A lot uglier. It's actually not that ugly yet. It'll get ugly. Okay, here we go. Okay, so and I'm reading this. I'm sorry, I haven't really taught this that much, but it's worth it. It's such a good script, you guys. So Lena, I kind of want to talk about the market. You brought up the market earlier and how you're hearing about all these multiple offers, and yeah, you're exactly right. Lena, I find that every single buyer falls into one of these categories: box A, box B, and box C, and you draw these. Box C buyers are buyers who don't really have to buy, but they would like to buy, right? When the right house comes along, you don't need to, but you want to, right? Box B buyers, you want to buy a house, you need to buy a house. Your family's growing. You just said it yourself, but you don't want to overpay. I mean, you want to make sure you're getting a deal, right? And then A buyers are, absolutely have to buy. They're willing to pay well over list price, waive inspection, waive financing, appraisal, do whatever it takes to buy a home. What type of buyer would you say you are?
I'd say B.
B? Yeah.
Are you freehanding?
By the way, I don't know why I just did that. Oh, wait. No, why? Don't ask me. Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
That's at A, B, and C. This is exactly more what I predicted here. Okay. So, Lena, almost everybody says B. That's super, super common. It's really common to not want to take a big, huge risk. So most people say that they want and need to buy, but they don't want to overpay and they get a value, and I completely get it. So Here's the thing, Lena. See this? See all these little dots that I'm drawing?
Yes.
See how I put a fence or a roof over A? We're not only in an A market, we're in an A plus market right now. See all these little dots I'm putting?
Yeah, what are those?
Every single one of those dots is an A plus buyer for every single house that we're about to see, especially in this price range. So the challenge is that every single one of those dots represents multiple offers on every house we're going to see, and they are going to pay over asking price. They're going to waive inspection. They're going to waive financing. They're going to waive almost everything. And if you're a B buyer, you won't get that house. So, you know, my question is, what's it going to take for you to be a box A buyer?
That's so scary.
Yeah. What do you think you'll need to get ready to get there?
I guess we just need to, I mean, we want a house, so we're going to have to be that buyer to make it happen.
Okay. So with that answer, then I think you are an A buyer, actually, right? That's the answer of an A buyer. I have really good news for you. We can do this. As long as, you know, we're going to walk through this really specifically, and we're going to go through the process as long as we work together and you commit to being an A buyer, you will get a house. I have good news for you. You will get a house.
Yay.
Now, you know, I'm going to have Kate Conroy on our Wednesday webinar this Wednesday. Every single one of you guys should be on that one, because most of the time, me included, most year one and year two agents, we do more buyers than sellers. And so I cannot stress enough, Kate Conroy is going to walk through her buyer consult, which is way better than mine. And she's going to kind of walk what to do. We're going to go through A and B. C. I'm not going to bother with C, but we're going to go through the B buyer and the A buyers and have her walk through how she would continue to lead them down that path. Don't miss it. If you can't be there Wednesday at noon, Hattie, can you drop the link in chat? Did she? And I just didn't see it.
Hey, Via. Somebody wrote in the chat, so is it a good time for Lena to buy now? Maybe she wants to wait until the market cools down a little.
That's a great question. I'm so glad that someone brought that up. So I do want to just spend a little time, and I was just moving into that. We have to be really careful with our language. If someone is paying over list price, are they actually paying over market value?
It depends, right?
What the market is right then.
What is market value, guys?
What is the price someone will pay?
It's in an arm's length transaction, what a seller is willing to sell for and what a buyer is willing to buy. So what's market value? Is it list price? No. So, you know, paying over list price is not necessarily overpaying. It could be, you know, it could be, but it doesn't mean that it is necessarily, right? So our language is really important. Lena, that's
question. Sorry, but you know how the saying perception is reality, right? So the obvious perception, I'm thinking just as a person, is that they did some comps, they put a price within range. I think a regular person thinks that's within range of market value. So isn't that perception for most that paying X amount above is paying over market value, even though by definition, to what you're saying, it isn't?
Lena, would it be okay if I switched into Sean with role play? Because I think what makes Sean so great is he's brand new, so he's a little bit more like a consumer. You and I know too much. So Sean, be a buyer right now. Okay. Be a buyer and you know, let's go there. So Sean, we just went through the ABC script and you're like, yeah, I want to be an A buyer, I want a house. You know, basically at all costs. So, you know, so why don't you share your concerns and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think my wife and I want to be an A buyer, but at the same time, I feel like we're going to lose out by overpaying. I know that's the game we're in, but that's the big fear of overpayment. If we could be B buyers and still get a house, I think that's what we would choose and sleep better at night. But I feel like forced to kind of jump into that A pool, if that makes sense.
Yeah, hold on, I'm trying to get my AirPods on so you can hear me better. All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a couple of things before we get into role play. I want to break role play a minute. So, because the real issue here is you run the risk, you could talk about 50% of your buyers out of being buyers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is, guys, I want you to just think about it, is that, and I'm truly asking a rhetorical question. I'm not asking you a question that I know the answer to. And that is that the best thing? On one hand, a lot of you guys are newer agents and you know, what do you have but time? On the other hand, do you really think it's fair to bring a buyer down an emotional highway and you know, with hours and hours invested in, that you just know they're going to lose? Who is that fair to? You know, so I don't know the answer, by the way. I think it's a case by case basis. I do believe that most of us are optimists and believe that we enter this thinking, you know, we're the ones that can get you a house. You know, it's okay that you're 3.5% down and you're looking in the most popular range and area. The reality is it may not be a bad thing to get someone on a really good nurture campaign and have them wait. It's hard for me to teach that. So, you know, I want you guys to go convert clients and get clients. My goal will be that we convert as many Bs as we can to As. But we all know in a lot of our markets, and some of your sub-markets may not be, you may be listening to me saying, no, our market's not quite there. And that's great. I'm hearing stories. I was just in our Lacey office last week, Bellingham. I don't know the exception. I haven't seen the exception, but some of you guys may have outerlying areas you work in that are the exception. You know, I guess my comment to all of you and what you should mastermind on is, you know, at what point should we be talking buyers in or out of things? Our job is to convert buyers and to get them to buy a home. And I do believe that, you know, nothing lasts forever, including this market. But I think we're in for it for spring season. So I don't know how to answer that for some of you. But it's not fair to not tell them the truth. And we are in an A+ buyer's market. I mean, that is the truth. And so however you want to say it, even if you take elements of that script and, you know, whatever, but you have got to figure out a way to get them prepared and to get them to waive everything to get a house that they want in most cases. And so I'm trying to at least train you up and give you some ammo to do that as a newer agent. And I think the best way to do it is with a script like this, you know, because it's hard to get someone to waive everything and to risk, you know, $100,000 earnest money. That's really, as a new agent, that's really hard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Sean, yeah, I mean, of course, you know, that is something that, you know, we need to talk about. I think it's interesting that, you know, that you mentioned overpay, Sean, because I completely understand that. And I get the optics of it. I get that when a house is listed at, you know, sort of 700 and it goes for 800, like, I get how that looks. It makes you feel like you've overpaid. If we could spend a minute and I could show you what the market is and that's probably not overpaying, it's just such a quickly ascending price line that we're just not seeing the comps until they close, then I think you'd understand you're probably paying market value in a lot of these cases, but it's rising so rapidly that we don't even know what market value is. It's like a real-time number. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
and then and so then I would pull out trend graphics. Let me see if I have one on me, because I do these so much. I often literally have a trend graphics on me, which is fun. I literally do have one. Oh, these are weird ones. I don't know why I have those.
While you're doing that, Olga said they pay over appraisal price, waive everything, and 5 months later hate you.
Has that ever happened to you, Olga?
Well, what I wrote back to her, and tell me if you agree, is that if they are looking for a home and you got them a home that they wanted, why are they going to hate you? You know, and they're only paying over appraisal if they choose to.
Right, but at some point, you know, when you steer them to be an A buyer, you put a little bit pressure on them, right? And
yes, the pressure needs to be on them, not you.
They're getting in a competition. Yeah. Oh, I have to win. I have to win. I have to buy whatever I can get now, but then when they get a house, they cool down a little bit, they live in this house for 3, 4, 5 months, and then siding needs to be repaired, roofs need to be repaired, and a lot of, things and a lot of investment on the top price they paid for the house already. But we're talking about lifetime relationships. I understand it's a hot market. Houses getting offers the same day they listed, but, well, is it really good idea to push them to be A+ buyer?
You never, ever, ever want to push a buyer, ever. You should never push a buyer. It's not a good idea to ever push a buyer. They have to make, I'm trying to find a good term.
Yeah, it's on them for sure to want that.
I have a question. Is it possible to request a pre-inspection?
Okay, we're going to go through that right now. I'm going to role play that with Sean. So these are all super good questions. I don't have a good trend graphics to show you, but so Sean, look, I'm just going to show you a trend graphics right now. And this is what the market looks like on paper, Sean. I know you're hearing it, from all your friends and family and from your neighbors, but this is what it actually looks like on paper. And let's pay attention to the last 3 months. You can see that's December, January, and February, and we'll have March data soon, right? This is all homes 1.25 to 1.5 in East Bellevue. And by the way, this chart is 3 days old. I just got this listing. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing new listings is the blue line, Sean, and then red line is pending listings. And this light green bar is inventory, active inventory that's on the market at the end of the month. So when I say a price line that's ascending, the price line looks almost like that pending line right there. What's happening is so many homes are coming on the market and selling that same month that we're selling and pending more than we have inventory. That's how that line is above it. That is how fast it's moving. This is what our inventory supply looks like. It's anywhere from 2 weeks, 3 weeks, back down to 2 weeks supply, essentially, right? So when things are moving that fast, the challenge, Sean, is that our price trend line is just going through the roof. Our average closing is 30 to 40 days. So every closing, even if we got a closing today, let's say I got a closing an hour before we're having this meeting, that probably sold 30 days ago. It's 30 days old already. Even if we have a house that sold yesterday and went pending, the agent probably won't share with me the price because that's how our MLS works. We don't share the price of a pending property. And so the challenge is that, the definition of market value is what a seller is willing to sell for, what a buyer is willing to buy for, especially because we use a lot of escalation clauses. So this really needs to come down to a conversation about what you guys both are super comfortable with, right? And part of that conversation, it's why I had you talk to Christine at BKCM Mortgage, because I wanted her to have that convo that she had with you about how interest rates correlate to pricing. And, as long as you're comfortable with the monthly payment and you're comfortable, buying a house and in your price range in East Bellevue, then only you can tell me, what overpaying is and what your comfort level is. One of the things I know you shared with me is that you plan on staying in this home for 5 to 10 years. That makes me feel, even more comfortable. I can't imagine a safer investment than Bellevue, The other thing I would say to you, Sean, is that nobody on the planet regrets buying a home 20 years ago. Everybody on the planet regrets not buying a home 20 years ago. So part of this is just real estate will always go up over time. I think the risk we run is, what is the risk you'll get relocated in the next 2 or 3 years? Do you have concerns with your job? Do you think Amazon will pull you away?
I don't, and I think flexibility with working virtually if that were to come up. So I feel pretty secure there.
Okay. So I think that these are really big conversations, and they're not necessarily conversations you guys need to answer now, but they are conversations that I'd like you guys to have now while we're calm. We haven't been in any houses together. You're not emotionally attached at this point to placing furniture in a living room, so to speak. Now is the time to have these conversations while you're rational, because I know with experience, Sean, that this is going to go quick when it happens. We will have to move extremely aggressively and extremely quickly. So it's really important to me that we take the time and you guys take the time up front to really determine what your comfort zone is on this. And then we're going to go hard. Okay. Then we're going to go hard because I'm going to get you a house. That's what I do. And so, so that's what I do, you guys. That's Via as a coach right there. In fact, I just lost myself. That was literally me in role play. Like I sound the same with you guys that I do with my clients. So, you know, that's what I do for that prep conversation. Was it Olga? Olga, are you there still? Okay, she's not here. Yeah, that's kind of what I do for the prep. We have not gone into the specifics yet. So that's next. It's really important that we do these in the right domino order, in my opinion. And you guys, the reason I'm spending a lot of time on this is that I feel really strongly that as a new agent, this is you. I hope you're dropping everything and listening right now, because trying to get clients to waive everything on $1 million assets is probably the hardest job you have right now. This is the hardest thing that you're going to experience in this buyer's market, right? You have to understand it and be confident in it. So this conversation is why I went off the slide deck and I called Lena at about 11:30 and I said, this is really what we have to talk about the most today, right? Is this. How can we get newer agents to have the confidence and the skills to get clients to make these decisions? Like Olga said, these are really, really big decisions, right? And it has to be their decision. We can never, force or pressure a client. So my approach is that we put in the work up front together, and that, like I did with Sean, and that, let's pause right now. Let's get clarity. Let's make sure we're good, because we're going to go. Because I would not be a good agent if I kept that stance the whole time. There's a time where we got to ramp up aggressively. Does that make sense? Yep. Let's pause for questions and comments right now before we go on to the actual specifics, and we're going to walk through the specifics. What are your thoughts so far? You guys, did I scare everybody? I do that sometimes.
Well, I have an example. I was talking to a friend of mine that is an investor in Kirkland, and he is helping a neighbor to sell his house. And he was checking, well, he has a lot of experience with his properties. He was checking the sales, kind of determine what was the best price to put in the market. And the price was changing every week. I mean, from one week to the other one, it changed about $50,000. So, for example, a house was put in the market for about $450, and it just escalated. And at that time, they have to wait for a few weeks to see what was the price. It was over $500,000. So he was recommending just to wait for the price to come out before he put the house in the market. So he can use that as a market value for that, because it was changing all the time. But the other thing that he was recommended at this time, it was to do a pre-inspection. So, for example, when buyers are escalating, this is from the perspective of the seller, but from the perspective of the buyer, can be used to have a pre-inspection. So people will be more comfortable escalating, because they know what is the condition of the house.
Yeah, and actually, we're going to do a listing presentation L3, and we're going to walk through that, and we're going to walk through my scripts. I give sellers options and pros and cons and all that. It's a very good point. Are you guys ready to move into that specifics now, into the transaction? So we touched on it last L3 when we talked about multiple offers, right? This is kind of how I would say the difference between that one and this one is now I'm going to just go back into role play, and I'm going to talk to do you mind if I pull Sean? I feel like Sean Lena, because Sean's new. And so he asked the questions that, like, you and I know too much, Sean, are you good with that? Where's Sean?
Sure. I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Sure.
Let me pull you up. Hold on. Oh no, I can't move a video. Okay, sorry. All right. So you guys are good to go, and you're good to go. You're even, you even might pull some money out of savings. You might even go up to $1 million, Sean, right? But you really want to stay at 800,000, right?
Yes,
Okay.
preferably.
Okay, perfect. So Sean, be a buyer right now. Like, don't try to be a good role player. Honestly, put your buyer hat on. Forget you're an agent for a minute, because that's why I like that.
Yep. Well, I would say, we're willing to, but, my wife and I are not aligned 1000% on that. So, the closest to that 800, the better. But we can, if need be, is what I would say.
And here's the thing, you'd be with your wife right now, and
yes.
we'd be having that dialogue. So let's kind of go to the next step, kind of assuming, that. Okay. Yep. So the next step is, I'm just trying to find that sheet. You guys, did we ever send out the sheet? Hattie or Lena, did we send them the multiple offer sheet that I did?
Last 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Did we send that out to you guys? Did you guys get that multiple, how to win and multiple?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a lot to send you. You're about to get some goods. That's good. All right. So, okay, Sean. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through sheet. Okay. So you've been hearing from your family and friends and your neighbors. You've been hearing about the craziness, right? So far, what do you know? What are you hearing people have to do to get homes?
Mostly just, I don't know all in the contract piece, but just waiving a lot of what normally in a different market you wouldn't have to, whether that's inspection and some other things. And people are losing with being willing to pay well above asking, which is kind of scary to think.
Yeah. So you're hearing above asking, and you're hearing waiving inspection. Yeah. Okay. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to walk you through the process. And again, it's really important to me, Sean, that we do this now while everybody's calm. We're having, I want to do this now and make sure that you ask the, clarifying questions now, because when it comes time to do this, it is going to be, I just want to brace you. It's going to be very fast, and it's going to feel, it's going to almost feel overwhelmingly fast. So this is the time for us to spend together to make sure that you're crystal. Okay. Both of you guys. So
are you doing another buyer needs assessment with them right now at this point?
No, we're going to go through right now we're going through what to expect.
Okay.
That he's about to waive his life in his first born son. Yeah. We're at that part. Remember that part? Yeah. Okay, Sean. So let's walk through what this is going to look like. So the first thing is, because you guys really want to stick to 800, this is going to sound a little crazy. I'm going to set you up on 2 searches. The first search is actually we're going to cap your search at 700, and there is a chance we might have to lower that to 650. The reason is that we can expect, because I know this area, in this particular area, our average home is selling for 18 to 22% over ask price. Okay. So I want you to just do a quick calculation in your head. When you see a $700,000 house, that could be an $840,000 house. Okay. So that's the first thing. We just have to get used to the math. So you're going to get really good at just a quick 20% on top, right? So that's kind of the first seed I want to plant. The second search I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and do a search up to 800, because every blue moon, we're going to have an overpriced house, and we might be able to snag it. And I don't want you to miss it, but I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I'm going to push back a little bit if we want to go see too many of those homes, because I think it's going to be heart-wrenching for you to go see a bunch of $800,000 homes, which are what, $960,000 homes potentially. And, and if we see those stats changing, we'll adjust. Does that make sense?
Well, I first of all, I appreciate the input. I didn't think of it that way. And I think in just looking around on Redfin, our worry is, will a $700,000 home that we end up paying $840 fit our needs? And so I would like to keep maybe a little bit in that 800. So just so we can get in there and actually see it, and maybe we cut bait after that, if that works.
Totally works. And we'll keep that search active, and, you know, open houses are back too. And those are kind of good ones to see on open houses as well.
Mhm.
You know, and again, the market, you know, we might have little micro shifts. You never know. Where I'm this is what I do full time. So I'm pretty keyed into it. The important thing is the minute you see a house come across you're interested in, please text me immediately, one of you guys, and we'll establish a group text. And it's really important that when we establish it, it has Shay, my showing agent, on it, because between, you know, the two of us, someone needs to try to get you an appointment pretty quickly. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's our price conversation, right? That we're gonna. I would prefer you to kind of focus on that first search, because I just, you know, that's the deal. List price is not market value at this point, like we discussed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the second one is I want to kind of explain to you how inspections work in this market, and we're going to make a decision together right now, and so that we can kind of pre-establish our strategy. There's a couple ways that we're handling inspections. One of them is not that we get to buy a house and have an inspection later. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed where we don't have that privilege anymore. It's really important to me as a standard business practice that you, my buyer, has an inspection on every single house you purchase. You know, if you want to make a decision that you don't want to, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm your partner in this. I'll still write an offer and submit it. And I just have to tell you, I would not do that. I would not buy a home without an inspection first. But what I want to go into, and the good news is, what I'm seeing more and more, Sean, is our sellers are providing pre-inspections that they have paid for with really reputable third-party inspectors. And as long as I recognize the inspector name or the inspecting company, I completely trust them. You know, it's smart for them to do that. It means that they won't have a bunch of people tearing up their house. You know, I think they're a great way to go. So a lot of my buyers are choosing to just go with those where they're not actually physically having the inspection, but they're using that inspection to make their decision. And one example might be, if we find a house that's 700, but we can see that it needs a new roof. Well, yeah, you might go a little bit over asking, but that might affect how far over asking you do want to go. You're using that to make your decision, right? And that's how we would use that information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing that more and more. And when that comes up, you know, we can kind of gauge it based on that individual house. The other thing that's happening is that my buyers themselves are actually paying an inspector to come in and do what we call a pre-inspection before you even write your offer, right? You haven't even written your offer. You're writing a check to an inspector. These are verbal inspections. They're slightly abbreviated. They're a little quicker than a regular inspection. And you may not win in the bid. There might be 10 offers and you paid for an inspection, you may not win it. If that is a direction you're comfortable with, and a lot of my buyers are, I recommend budgeting $1,000 to $1,500 as an investment towards your home buying process, and having that money set aside to do that. I would feel much more comfortable if we did that, if we don't get a seller provided inspection, rather than just waiving an inspection without having one. I would feel much more comfortable. I know it seems crazy to write checks and to have inspections on houses you haven't even made an offer on, but if you view it as, you know, a total investment, and the reason I say $1,000 to $1,500 is these can be anywhere from $300 to $400, $250 to $400, depending. And that is a good transition to our next conversation, Sean. You might have to make 2 or 3 or 4 offers, and that's just a reality. We need to talk about it now.
Wow.
It's not necessarily because you're bad buyers or I'm a bad agent at all. It's just that there's a stopping point to where you're comfortable on every house. And you may decide to just let someone else overpay. You know, there's a point where you will feel like you've overpaid. And you have to stop. You have to stop your bidding at that price. And because of that, you know, we need to collectively have this conversation now that you might want to walk away from the house, right? So out of those 3 scenarios, how comfortable are you with that third scenario, with potentially buying some inspections? Like, let's talk about it.
I think I hadn't thought of that and didn't realize that was a thing. Again, it's not the greatest, but if we were willing to pay X amount as an investment, I think the way you put it, as a total investment, I think we can wrap our minds around this, because honestly, this is the game we need to be able to play if we want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sounds like there's no real way around it, and we're not comfortable waiving completely. So I think we'd be okay.
You know, I shouldn't say we're never allowed to do inspections afterwards. Actually, that's not true. Very rarely, I am now seeing that a seller won't consent to a pre-inspection, Sean, and they're actually kind of allowing a 24-hour window after we go into mutual acceptance to do one. So the landscape's kind of ever evolving. I want to have this conversation now so that you're not caught off guard, because when it happens, again, it happens really quick. So that's good to know that you have that willingness, because that's what I recommend if we're not given the option to do one, right? I never want to recommend that you completely waive it. One other option that I'm seeing, on that note, well, it has to do kind of with the last thing I said, but is where we say we're going to have a 24-hour inspection window, and it's going to be pass fail. All pass fail means is that we're not going to ask for anything. We're just kind of we're just making sure that the asset is sound, that we're about to plonk $1 million on or $800,000 on. So there's a couple ways we can swing it sometimes. I think we should prepare for the most aggressive, because if there's going to be multiple offers and you really want the house, and I don't want you to lose on terms when you can win on price. So the other thing we need to talk about is appraisal and what your down payment is. So what are you guys putting down, Sean?
We're putting down 20%. We're planning to put down 20% right now.
Perfect. Do you have a cushion there, or is that kind of taking all of your liquid?
If there needs to be, given this landscape, we didn't really think about it, but there's a cushion possibility given the current landscape.
So we talked about that really fast moving price trend line, right? Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I think we need to walk into this planning on you doing, and on a case-by-case basis, we may or may not have to, is waiving inspection or waiving appraisal or waiving a portion of the appraisal. So just as a reminder, inspection is something you do to inspect your asset. An appraisal is something that your lender will do. So your lender will send an appraiser to make sure, they're using that asset is leverage for your loan. And so they want to make sure that asset's worth $800,000 if they're giving you an 80%, loan on that. So the appraiser is looking at the same data we are. And that data does not always reflect today's price. It's just moving so fast, right? So we're getting a lot of low appraisals lately. And I think there's a high percentage of that looking at how fast the market's moving in this price range in Bellevue, by the way. And I just think we need to prepare for this. So we have a couple addendums we use, and we'll go through them when we write the offer, but I just want to have a conversation now. We have a couple addendums we use where you can either waive the appraisal, or you can say, look, if the appraisal comes, within $50,000, I could put up to $50,000 additional. Let's just use $1 million. Let's just pretend you're buying $1 million. It's easier math. You have potentially 250 you could put down instead of 200,000, right? So there's some addendums we could use where you could guarantee that, if the appraisal came in, within $50,000, you would, and we cap it, but you would cover that much. What's your comfort level on that?
Yeah, I think it makes sense that we could do that if need be. Obviously, it's case by case, but we need to be prepared up front. So yes, I think we could do that.
I think I think we need to be prepared, and we can probably anticipate that one. It's in this area. It would be there will be people actually waiving appraisal altogether. We are actually going to probably be competing against cash buyers and people waiving financing altogether.
When you say waiving appraisal altogether, what does that mean? What does that look like? Whatever the gap is between what it would have appraised for and what they just pay, whatever the difference. That's basically what waiving it is. Got it.
Yeah, that's right.
And what percentage, in your experience, of time do you see right now this market people winning with that? Capping their appraisal at a certain amount.
Almost all winning offers right now would have some element of an appraisal waiver. 90%. Yeah. 95%. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, it's good that we're having the conversation now, obviously. And sometimes you luck out. I think we need to plan for the worst. I'm seeing it too often. We're seeing a lot of low appraisals right now, and that just goes down to our initial conversation about value in price, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question with the appraisal. I believe that VA loans don't allow to buy.
Let's not get into, so I think that, so what I'm hoping is I'm hoping you guys are taking notes and you're going to bring a ton of questions to your DBs at your forms classes. That's what I'm hoping. And in your masterminds, because there's so many like details behind each of these things that I'm saying that we won't go into. Because again, this is the buyer consult class. And actually I would never say 22 AD in a buyer consult. They don't know what that means. So like to stay true to the class today, what I would say is that, okay, Sean, let's pretend you're a VA buyer, because Helen brought it up too. I feel so strongly about this right now. You guys, I love our vets. I love them. I just have a heart for people who have served our country and like literally risked their lives. Like it's just a thing with me. I've read books, I've watched movies. I don't know any people in my world that are military. I don't know what it is. It's really moving to me that people would do that for their country, right? And VA buyers cannot get homes right now in a lot of submarkets. And so it is really, really challenging. So I thought help me, BKCO lender at our network meeting. He was at our, I'm trying to remember. He gave a great idea. Who was it?
Wasn't it Steve?
No, it wasn't Steve. Who was it?
One of the lenders?
One of the lenders at BKCO had such a good idea. And he basically said, if they do have money, but they want to use their VA benefit and essentially get in with zero down, you can buy conventional, and they have VA cash out refinances where you can get paid back on your down payment. Now, I don't have all the details on that, but I thought that was fantastic. And I was going to give you the loan officer to call, and I can't remember. BKCO mortgage. Maybe Hattie can grab it and throw it in chat. But anyway, I thought that was a really good idea. So I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that. I think that, briefly, for all of you guys working with VA, luckily, a lot of the VA buyers are in outlying areas where the competition is a little, it's not Ballard necessarily, or like Bellevue or Kirkland, which is the worst right now. I don't even, it's horrible. Coleman, thank you.
Coleman Page.
On fire, Dane, and Fuego. Perfect. Thank you. You're the best. You're my favorite today. All that stuff. Okay. So the thing is that, you have to counsel them with the truth. You can't our job is to tell them the truth. Like you can't sugarcoat it, but you can be their coach and you can believe in them. You can still work. Someone just mentioned 10 offers, like good for you. Did they get a house? Who said that? Did they get their house?
Yuki.
Yeah. Yuki, did they get their house?
He's been accepted on one. So going through the process, finally.
There. So good for you for sticking it out. And I think that you use emotional pleas. You really sell your lender. You have your lender call the seller.
We've done letters. Everything.
I don't have a magic bullet for you though. Like I don't sort of have like that. This is exactly how, you get a VA buyer to win a house right now. I don't have that answer, but I just know that you do whatever it takes, and you act as a fiduciary, right? So as we're going through all this, you can't, I'm sort of doing this with Sean. I mean, I'm just trying to pull out all the stops right now. Like you have to pick and choose what you can do with your buyers, but I want you guys to hear kind of what a typical dialogue sounds like. And that's exactly what it sounds like with me, right? And so, the other thing is, Sean, I want to talk to you about the concept of, where'd you go? There you go. I want to talk to you about the concept of a bully offer. And I want to also talk to you about how offer reviews work in our market and how escalation clauses work, okay? Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of an escalation clause, Sean?
Maybe in passing, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Have you ever bought anything on eBay, just out of curiosity?
No, I know people who have, though, and I know they bid against someone else's price, and it moved, I believe.
Yeah. eBay is a good example because you can say, look, I'll spend $100 on this and I'll beat the best bid by $2, right? But you've set a limit of 100, right? And that an escalation clause is just like, I call it the eBay clause, right? So you're basically saying, okay, I'm looking at this $700,000 house. I'll pay up to $850 for it, right? And then you pick a number that you're willing to beat the best offer by. And that's where I kind of want to, that's self-explanatory. I want to stop at that number a bit. It's really important that that's a pretty big number. It's a pretty big number because if that number is $1,000, you're effectively just matching another offer. You have to really beat another offer to make those clauses worth it. So typically it's, it's in the $5,000, $10,000 range that you're willing to pay over what someone else has bid, right? Letter of the law means that when we're using an escalation clause, the listing agent would then send us a competing offer that we're beating, right? The practicality of it is we don't always get that offer because they'll often switch to a verbal negotiation. And that's pretty typical, where you'll submit an escalation and you get down to the wire and they're like, look, there's two of you, one of you's at 840, one's at 850. And then you get into a little bit of verbal negotiations. And we're often in a situation where we have to make a very quick decision because you have a seller at a table ready to sign off. And so I just want to prep you for that even if we use an escalation, that's not a guarantee we are going to see the competing offer. I'll have them show us something. Something to see proof. We may not be able to see the whole thing, but that's the spirit of it. And why I like escalation clauses and why I like counseling my buyers to use them, Sean, is that, we have that comfort of knowing someone on the open market was willing to pay as much as us. And to me, that's kind of confirmation of market value. That makes sense, right? Yep. So I just kind of want to be clear that when you see that, we're almost definitely going to be using an escalation. In fact, we will definitely be using an escalation clause for sure. And, we'll walk through the increments and make decisions, at that time. Okay, so there's that. What else did I say? Appraisal. Sorry, we talked about appraisal. Financing. So let's skip financing. I don't want to talk about that. Earnest money. So the other thing, Sean, that's going to happen is earnest money. So you're putting $200,000 down. Ideally, we're willing and able to put up to $250, right? We're putting down 200. So a portion of that you're going to pull out, and we're going to give to as a deposit towards that money called earnest money. So my question is, how liquid are you? Out of that, is that 200 all sitting in a bank? Is it in stocks? Do you have to cash things out? How much of that is pretty readily available to you right now?
It's a combination of all you mentioned. Okay. So I would say I would say 80 to 100 without me looking would be liquid, and the rest would have to be would take some time.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that number. So earnest money is another tool in our tool belt. Right. This is a VIA signature. And actually, this is what I say. This is true. This is all true. One of my VIA signatures is, and listing agents around this area know it of me, I am known for big earnest money. And it's funny because we have something called statutory safe harbor here in Washington. And what that means is a seller actually, so by the way, you're risking earnest money. I'll just cut to the chase. You are risking earnest money. So you could write in an $800,000 house, 5% would be $40,000. You are risking $40,000 that if you just don't follow through with like your financing or anything, if you get cold feet, you will lose that $40,000. Statutory safe harbor says you won't lose more than 40. It says you will only lose up to 5% of the purchase price, right? That's what that means. So my trick, if you will, is I like to have my buyers put down 10% earnest money. It looks really sexy. It looks really strong. My goal when I'm writing a really strong offer is that all things being equal, can I do the one thing that's going to weight us in favor, right? And I find often earnest money does that. The other thing we can talk about is actually releasing some or all of that to the seller in advance, meaning it transfers from escrow into their bank account in advance. And there's some real value to doing that because you're at risk of losing $40,000 anyway. And so you might as well use that to get the deal. So the question I have for you is sort of how comfortable are you in your financing? How comfortable are you with Coleman? Are you, was your credit score high? You feel really good about getting approved and getting closed on your loan? And let's talk about this.
So credit score is great. My question, I guess I want to understand is it a higher risk when we release it? That example of releasing it. I know there's a risk anyway of 5%. Is it a higher risk by releasing it, or is that risk even to not releasing it at the same amount, if that makes sense?
Yeah, great question. I believe it is a higher risk. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I have, mixed feelings about it, but the credit score is good. We have enough liquid to do it or talk about it or consider it. I mean, I guess if we fall in love with the home and, we're at that point, maybe we can revisit that. I know we won't have a bunch of time, as you mentioned, but right now.
Oh, we have plenty of time to talk about all this. Yeah, plenty of time. Yeah, so there's two questions. Number one, how do you feel about a high earnest money, like 10% earnest money, not released to the seller? How do you feel about that part of it?
I like that strategy from what I'm hearing, because if I understand it correctly, the 5% is still the part that's at risk. So this is more of
that's correct.
Not a trick, but sort of a maneuver. So yeah.
It's just good optics, helps our optics.
Right.
Okay, good. Yeah. So you can expect that. That's kind of that's a tool I really like to use, because it's not no skin off our back, so to speak. Like it just makes us look stronger, when we come in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I don't have my list in front of me for multiple offers. Lena, have I missed anything? We did earnest money. We did inspection, appraisal. I didn't go into waiving financing. One option. Okay. I'm going to say this. I'm going to get in trouble. Is Janine here?
Careful.
I know. This is why everyone's like, oh, I'm going to listen now.
Oh, Alex said love letter.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thanks. We'll talk about that. Thanks, Alex. Really quick, and this doesn't, please ask your broker, but please don't tell them I told you this. So if you have a VA or a really low down payment buyer, one option you can do is you can just waive inspection. There is no inspection contingency. There is no 22A. By doing that, you're actually hiding the process from the listing agent and from the seller. It's not unethical in any way. You can still tell the listing agent and the seller that they're getting financing. We're just
Do you mean waiving financing? You said waiving inspection. Did you mean waiving
financing?
Okay, I was like, you just told me and my wife that you wouldn't do it, and now you do it. No.
I'm doing it. Sorry. Financing, inspection. What's the difference? No.
Yeah.
You're right. No, you just waiving financing. You just don't put the 22A in, meaning you're still getting it, but you're just not contingent. The offer is not contingent.
If you don't get financing, you are going to pay some way.
You're going to lose your earnest money. Means you're going to lose your earnest money. Assuming you guys checked forfeiture of earnest money, which literally everybody checks, you should check it, then the worst you can do is lose your earnest money. So, you would not want to put a ton of earnest money down, ideally, if you are going to waive financing and they are getting financed. You absolutely have to tell, I believe, ethically, the listing agent and the seller, because you're going to send an appraiser there. You have to tell them you're getting financing. But you do not have to make any deal contingent on financing, right? I just hesitate.
Can you lose more than the 5% in that case, or you're still in that scenario?
You can never. Statutory safe harbor means you can only lose 5%.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, I'd like you guys to take. There's a lot of specifics to what we just went through over the last half an hour. And I would hope and expect that you guys would go to your brokers. And I hope that incited a lot of questions, actually. And I hope, you guys should practice all this and look at, actually read. I don't know if anyone's told you this, but have you actually sat down and read Form 21, 22A? Have you actually sat down and read them? 22D? Read them, just actually read them. You'll learn a lot just reading them. And, asking your brokers all these questions and really, really understand their tools to your creativity and your intellect will create a good offer. And our forms are simply tools for which you to execute that, right? Your vision of the offer, you're crafting an offer, and all the forms is, that's how you execute it. All right. So Alex asked about love letter. That's a great question, Alex. And I'm seeing love videos too. So really, really briefly. Yeah, it's like a super big trend, big trend, especially if you have millennial sellers. right? No. Okay, so here's the deal with love letter. A love letter is a buyer is, oh, I know, I didn't do bully offers. Let's see if we have time. Okay. A love letter is sending a letter to the seller. You know, the buyer writes to the seller about why they want to buy their house. Now, when I teach a class to you about being the fiduciary of a buyer and being a buyer's agent, I'm going to talk to you about protecting your buyer. When I teach a seller class and I'm teaching you a listing agent class, then I'm going to tell you you're going to recommend to your seller that you do not look at love letters, that you do not show them love letters, because I'm now in that situation, that conversation, I'm representing a seller, but right now I'm representing a buyer. What is our fiduciary to a buyer? It is to do whatever it takes within reason to get them a house. And because I know that most listing agents are not as diligent as that, it means I'm going to absolutely ask them to write a love letter. Anything that it takes. There's a whole bunch of reasons as a listing agent, you do not want to show those to your seller. But as a buyer's agent, you got to do what it takes. So I like to include a photo, and I like them to include a nice, heartfelt, thing. Sean, oftentimes I will have them, I have them draft it right after the buyer consult, and then we leave a paragraph where they fill in just about the specific house when we write the offer. So I'll send them to go write it right then and there, because again, we're not in the heat of the moment. Everybody's calm, everyone's happy. It gets very crazy. Your adrenaline gets flowing when you find that house, right? So that's that. And then really quick, because we only have a few more minutes, darn it. Lena, man, these are,
I know.
There's a lot of content in these.
That's why it's so important for everybody to get together in their own little masterminds to.
It really is. You guys have to mastermind on this, and you have to go ask your productivity coach and your broker, all this stuff. But really, really quick, I want it, because we only have a few minutes. This is really important. So important. Sean, one last approach I want to talk to you about, and that is called the bully offer approach. So in our market, typically agents list a home on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and then they have an offer review on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. That's a fairly typical pattern, right? And an offer review means they will not, respond to an offer until their offer review date, right? That gives us time to do our due diligence, which in our case, a lot of the times is a pre-inspection, and go back, one or two times to see the house, whatever. When you just know that this is your house and you don't care, you are willing to be very aggressive, extremely aggressive on your offer, right? When that time comes, I'm going to probably recommend a bully offer. A bully offer can only be done if you're willing to go well over and beyond the list price. So typically, Sean, what I find with my buyers are, this happens after they've made one or two bids and they're so familiar with the area, they have a sense of market value now, and they understand innately that this $700,000 house will 100% go for like $850. They just know it will, right? It's harder. I don't see it as often on their first offer, right? So when that time comes, what we do is we go in and we take all of these tools in our tool belt that I just talked about. We pull it all out. We write that offer that's, so good that the seller cannot imagine saying no to that or doing better. And we submit it before the offer review date. We have won many houses this way. And I continue to see listing agents and sellers, take fully offers that are so good like that, right? So I'm kind of prepping you that time is of the essence. Even if we see an offer review date, time is of the essence, because the early bird often gets the worm in these situations. And it is really important that we get that showing appointment right away. And it's really hard to schedule showing appointments right now. So the minute you or your wife, either of you guys see a house you like, I can't stress enough, we're going to set up our group text, that you text us immediately, because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to schedule an appointment on showing time. It's just really hard to get in. And then, then what we're going to do is, once we see it, then we'll make our decision accordingly. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So before we go, do you have any questions? No, that's great. You excited to work together? You excited to go down this journey together, Sean? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Perfect. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to send you a buyer disclosure packet. There's a law of agency. You're going to see a contract to work with me, buyer brokerage agreement. It's actually a loyalty agreement called a Be a Group loyalty agreement. You're going to see a couple other disclosures required by our office. And what that does is it gets you logged into what we call Authentisign. It gets you an account in there. And that's what we're going to use moving forward for all of our documents, for our offers, for our purchase and sales. And so it's a really good time to get set up on it, get your signature set, get your username and password done. And it's a good practice ground for that. So that's the first step. And then when we get that, what I recommend as our next step, Sean, is we're going to set you up on a search right away that we go and see some houses this weekend. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. So the minute you start getting the search, just the one habit I'd love you to get into is just ping us immediately. Text us immediately in our group text if you see one you like, okay? I'm excited to work with you.
Thank you.
Okay, really quick, and I gotta go. You can include a photo, you can include anything you want. You're not responsible for fair housing, the listing agent is. Now, when we teach our listing agent class, I do not show those. I think they are ripe with issues. I think there's huge fair housing potential violations on those, and I do not counsel my sellers to look at those at all. That's not really your responsibility as a buyer's agent. I'm going to leave you with that. I know it's provocative. I'm good at that. Okay, it's 1:30, everybody. But mastermind around that. Mastermind around that topic, right? Mastermind around it. We have so many things we're going to send you. The ABC script, the buyer consult. Lena, what else do we say we send them? The promise, we didn't even go over it. We're going to send them the promise script. What else?
The stuff from last time.
Stuff from last time, so many things. So please promise me you guys will mastermind with other people doing L3 in your market center between now and the next L3. Yes? Will you, please? Yes? Please? Please? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Ping me if you have any questions, just like email or text me or anything. Bye, guys.